thanks for joining us on this episode of the Pave It Forward Podcast. My name is Phil Metzger, and with me is Kevin Gray, and we are here to help leaders in the paving industry who are looking to run more efficiently, meet their ideal customer, and improve the lives of those around them through meaningful work. Kevin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Happy to be here.
That's
good
right.
To see you again, brother.
Yeah, good to see you too, man. Yeah, it's been a good week. Lots of progress.
Yes.
This topic that we're talking about today, that just kind of came up in one of our conversations as far as a process that we are looking to improve on our end for the Pave It Forward Asphalt side. And, again, with you being in a situation where you have so much experience in dealing with national contractors, large scale work, and also with the smaller side of things growing into that. I think this is a really interesting topic. I think a lot of people will like to hear what you have to say. And so when we were kind of discussing the national paving contractors and just even reaching out to them in a manner, just reestablishing your relationship again,
Yeah.
You have a couple options. You can try to go find and solicit some large work on your own. I know there are some websites you can do some searching from, but in general, can you just kind of talk about why you might want to partner with a national paving contractor and what are your other options besides doing that if you're looking to take on a large project?
Yeah. I mean, it's the value there typically, especially if you align yourself with, reputable larger national paving contractors. I mean, there's to some extent, just like there are, on a local market level, they can come a dime a dozen, but there's a handful out there. I don't know. I don't know how many national paving, brokers or consultants or firms that there are. Probably, I don't know, 30 to 50. If I were just to guess, there's probably more even than that. But I mean, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, you can take it or leave it. I mean, there's maybe 5 to 10 that are reputable, that are in it for the right reasons, that aren't in it just to um, get rich quick and then possibly sell out to a large private equity firm. I mean, that's a game for a lot of the folks that do the national build these companies quick, get their values up, and then turn them over to private equity. But there's a lot of them, or there's a handful of them that are out there that are actually doing this in order to provide a great value and a service to their clients and their portfolio of clients, and that's the value that us as smaller contractors, at least I see in partnering with them, because you on a local level in your local markets, you've got big box stores and big chain companies, your Lowe's, your Home Depots, your Walmarts, your Targets, your Valvoline instant oil changes, your car washes. They're all national companies. Well, they don't want to have to, they don't have the resources locally to deal with finding all of these smaller contractors to perform work in all of the 50 states that they operate in. So, they've got an in-house facilities maintenance management team that deals with these national pavement vendors, where they can do it kind of all, under one umbrella. And then it allows the national pavement partners and groups to find the subcontractors in the local markets to perform the work. So it's quite a task. If I were to, let's take Home Depot, for instance. Like, if I just wanted to go up to one of my local Home Depot, there's, I don't know, 8 or 10 of them probably here just in Louisville, and try to get in with someone on a local level and run a $500,000 corporate, size kind of project up the flagpole. I mean, it can be done, and people do it. There are local people that have relationships with these large, bigger box stores, national companies, but it's a process. And these national pavement vendors have met with those large companies and have already established deep rooted relationships with their national facilities management and maintenance teams. So and then they build that relationship out and rely on a network of subcontractors like us all across the country to perform the work. So It's kind of taken the smaller kind of even middleman out of the thing, and they bring it up to a national level to where they can look at an entire country's worth of pavement assets and portfolio, and then kind of divide and conquer the work in that fashion. So it's not that it can't be done on a local level. It's not to say that if I spent 2 3 years maybe trying to establish some kind of local connection and relationship with, let's say, Lowe's or Home Depot, or even some of these a local fast food chain, whatever it might be, like that's going to take quite a bit of time to get in there. And by the way, it's a lot easier for those national guys that already have those relationships, just to kind of already have that established for us, and then and then feed it
Sure.
on down the chain. So
Well, there's definitely a lot to unpack there, and I think that
there's a lot. Yeah.
um, I think one way of kind of organizing these thoughts is so it seems like there's a couple of contacts, a couple of people that you as a paving business owner may want to try to make in that whole conversation. Um, I'll try to kind of start at the local level. Maybe there is um, a local establishment. We'll just say a hardware store. That's gaining a
Yep.
couple locations that doesn't have national representation. That
Right.
maybe you can do a little research on and see if there's only one location, maybe 1 to 3 locations. Maybe you can establish a relationship there, and then maybe the second level is dealing with national contractors directly, to where you can establish. Maybe they aren't a huge national company. Maybe they're just regional for now, and
Yeah.
they don't have maybe the resources or just the connections yet to hire those middle companies out. And then the
Right.
third one is kind of those paving contractor specific companies that deal with the national companies. Is that
Right.
kind of what I'm hearing?
Yeah, it is. And I mean, it's funny you say that, because I was talking with one of those national companies out in west, out in Colorado, actually this morning, and they were saying, they have more of a regional presence at this time, kind of west of the Mississippi. So sometimes they are just, as they are growing, regionally, in aspirations of becoming national, they're either waiting on connections at the corporate level in the east, southeast, northeast, part of the country, or they haven't established a good enough or solid enough or reputable enough subcontractor network yet that's actually capable of performing that work for them. So they're not going to go out and say, "Hey, we're a Western company. We service the West and the Northwest and the Southwest, whatever, very well, but." They can't go out and say we can handle the East, Northeast, Southeast, Midwest in the same capacity if they don't have that network built out yet of people that can actually go out and perform, especially these large scale projects. That's the thing with some of this national work, that we were really getting. We really spent the last 5 years that I was with the other business really getting good at and figuring out how to execute these large capital projects, these six-figure plus, $1 million projects that require an immense amount of planning, communication, coordination, logistics, phasing, keeping those stores in operation while we're there basically doing an entire rehabilitation of their parking lot asset. So it's a big step for a lot of people, especially if you're starting off smaller. You've just been doing it a few years, maybe just residential and light or small commercial, saying, "Hey, I'm going to go tackle this $500,000 project, this 2 3 4,000 ton full mill and overlay of this Lowe's, and I don't really know how to do this." So
Sure, sure.
it's
Especially if you don't have any of the relationships with subcontractors you can work with locally in the community.
absolutely.
That's another aspect that I'd love to dive into. But for the remainder of this episode, I think maybe we can kind of tackle what we kind of talked about there at the different levels. Maybe I know there's maybe one other resource. I know there are some job boards, some job websites where you can go and check and submit your proposal as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's plan rooms where you can go and see what jobs are coming up that might have, your product line listed on them. Now, you go look at these plan rooms. I mean, it's going to have and a lot of that's new construction. So that's another thing you need to explore if that's, something you can be competitive in your market, or if someone else does that a lot better. A lot of the times when you get into some of that, there's site work involved, and drainage, and curbing, and other things that you may not quite be there yet with your companies. And it's sometimes you can find it's hard just to go in and grab the asphalt or paving piece out of that, and still have something to offer to those clients. So there absolutely are other avenues. Like every commercial job or project that goes on in Louisville, Kentucky, or our surrounding markets, they don't all run through a national, paving alliance, but um, they do require that you've got some relationships, and you've got the capacity to pull off that kind of work. So, um, not to say that it can't be done. I mean, we look. I mean, we promote. There's by the way, there's plenty of private, commercial work in our market as well, that isn't affiliated with any kind of national company or asset management team. So we're trying to find those, and a lot of those are just, through networking, through online searchability and presence, and reviews, and all the other things that go into to just, being a reputable residential contractor. So
Sure.
uh, branding, marketing, presence in your community, and the more times people see this logo out and about, here in our town, the more the phone is going to ring. So
Sure.
uh,
Well, let's tackle the that kind of next level then. If you have any questions for Kevin about what those websites might look like, where you can go and look at individual jobs, please reach out and let us know at Pave It Forward LLC on Instagram or on YouTube, absolutely as well. But so let's kind of look at that next step, or maybe the lower barrier of entry in finding maybe a larger lot that's independently owned or has maybe two or three locations, and you're looking to establish a relationship with that business owner.
yeah,
So what would you do? Like, does it sometimes start obviously with you're in a parking lot and it's in terrible shape?
yeah.
How does that relationship go? What would you do then, especially if your, eyes and ears kind of perk up and notice that maybe this is a local place with another location or two?
Yeah, I mean that's a great one, and that goes back to kind of the fundamentals of sales that I've learned, uh, early on in my career, and one that I always tried to pass along and train and teach to my sales team was using that four corners approach. Especially, if we have a lead, or an inbound lead that we've gone and looked at, and it's on the corner somewhere, take a look around the other three corners of that intersection and see if there might be any needs. Or if you're just driving by and you notice, uh, a reputable looking company, or one that you frequent, and say, man, this lot needs some work, man. I'll just go inside and kind of go to the front desk, or find a representative at the counter and say, hey, is there a manager in, or is there someone I could speak to, uh, or a facilities manager, maintenance guy that handles your parking lot, repairs, issues. A lot of the times they'll just say, hey, no, they're not in, but I'll still leave a card, and maybe it'll get into the right hands. And a good one, especially anymore, and especially in a way to be productive and use your time wisely, is to to familiarize yourself with the properties and or companies that you may be interested in partnering with locally, and get on LinkedIn and find that company, and then search for job titles of people that would be directly responsible for handling their parking lot assets. Those things would look like facilities manager, or operations manager, things like that. And just start hitting them on LinkedIn, send them a DM. That's how I reached out to four or five of the national companies this morning. I just got on LinkedIn. I found the appropriate people. Some of them are people that I've dealt with, years ago in the past, and just shot them a message and said, hey, just wanted to let you know, relaunched a business. This is what we do. We're looking to expand our portfolio. We're taking on new projects. And how can I be of service? And just kind of offer yourself up. And I'll tell you this. I mean, I'm sure some of these folks get, they get messages from solicitors all the time. So just make sure when you show up in these people's DMs or you're sending them a message, you're not just saying, "Hey, I want to come look at your parking lot. Who, can I have an opportunity?" Offer them some value. Say, "Hey, whatever you want your spiel to look like to gain these people's interest and create some value for them. Say, I'll come out on my own dime, on my own time, and I'll do a Paiser report on your parking lot assets and see where it falls on the Paiser scale, 0 to 10. Give you some recommendations on what it looks like. Take some pictures, put a proposal together, and send it to them. And just even if they don't ask for it, but you've gone ahead and take, it takes 30 minutes. It's not a huge deal. I mean, but it's going a little bit above and beyond what everyone else is just being reactive to them calling and saying, "Hey, can you come look at our parking lot? It needs some work." Go ahead and be proactive and provide them some value. Even if they don't do business with you, they've at least got a starting point when they are ready to do some work of homework that's been done for them by a contractor. So, and
Sure.
and 9 times out of 10, if when they're ready, you're going to get a call to the table. So, yeah,
Sure.
and you've already done a lot of the legwork for free, and hopefully that gains you some credibility when it comes time to make a decision.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just also thinking another way to, even if someone out there doesn't even know where to look on LinkedIn or what companies are currently in their area, surely within a couple Google searches, a little bit of research and a little bit of time and research, you can find some of those things and get a place to start there. So when we're talking about the national side of things, maybe you're looking to establish a relationship with a maybe a regional company or someone that represents a national paving entity.
Yeah.
Would you kind of go about that the same way? Would it be the same amount of research? What would you kind of recommend if you're going about trying to meet someone in that fashion?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely what you do. Go and do some exploration on your own, um, and maybe even ask some other, smaller local guys, not even local, but just, some people you may know in the industry, your network of other contractors, and ask them for any recommendations. Are there any that you've worked with? Or are there any that you've heard good things about, bad things about? And just try to find some that align with your core values, with your morals and ethics and beliefs. Um, and look, I mean, we're launching, not relaunching, we're launching a new business essentially. And so my MO right now is find streams of revenue by any means possible. So, um, of course, I'm looking for large capital projects, because we know how to do them very well. I mean, I guess I have a 15-year head start in that to some capacity, that if the phone rang tomorrow and said, "Hey, we need you to go mill and pave 5,000 tons at the Lowe's down the street," I could have that set up and executed probably within a matter of 7 to 10 days. I mean, if it came down to it,
With
a
confidence. Yeah.
with confidence, and
Yeah.
that's just because I have experience. And if you don't have the experience, and look, this is how it started for me. I don't know, 5 6 years ago, when we really started getting uh, intertwined with some of these national, paving alliances. Uh, it would start off, they'd send us some patchwork, or they'd send us some restriping work to do, or small seal. Like, they wanted to feel us out and make sure that we could even execute the small stuff to some extent. And by the way, right now, as we're launching this business, I don't care what they send me. I'll prove to them that we've got what it takes to help them out in any capacity we can, because I know that ultimately is going to lead to bigger and better projects and more trust, and creating and reestablishing a relationship with those folks. And it just gets better from there. That's how it happened. I mean, we had a company. I won't name any names, because this is one that I've sworn that I won't go after. Um, mostly, well, mainly for in respect out of for one of my old sales guys, said, "Hey, that's all you, man. I love you, brother. You got it. I won't touch them." But it took us 5 years to get to where they were calling us for $500,000 projects and not even sending somebody out to supervise the projects anymore when we were doing them.
Yeah.
And it got that good. So you just got to start somewhere. If they send you a pothole to go do it and knock it out of the park and send them pictures and take notes and get the customer, the on-site manager to sign off on it and tell them how good of a job you did. I mean, whatever you got to do to take that $1,500 job and make it feel like the most important thing you've ever done, just so you can start building a relationship with someone who can send you potentially millions of dollars worth of work. I mean, that's what it takes. So, and that's in the old business. I mean, those partnerships with the national companies became 50% of our revenue stream. I
Sure.
mean, we got,
Yeah, we were
being a
looking at
six,
making that 80, if not 100%, or the commercial side,
we absolutely were.
we're
Yeah. And
looking at going for that. Yeah.
we even got to the point where we were like, why don't we, if we're creating this much value for these national companies to where they don't even have to send project managers to supervise our work anymore, and we're getting so good at this capital project kind of stuff, basically whatever they send our way, we have figured out through trial and tribulation. Like we just started executing. I mean, we took some lumps along the way, just as anybody's going to, but we almost got to the mindset is like, why can't we as a subcontractor become a little more regional and maybe travel a little more, a few hundred miles even away from home, and just service that area for a couple of these. Like, we can do more in that and maybe even work half the amount of days in a season and do more, if not more, in gross profit for the year. So
Yeah, plus that contact, they don't have to look for someone else in another market.
yeah, absolutely. And that's, it was trending in that way. I mean, we were literally thinking of ways, how can we work, we work 40, maybe 44 weeks out of the year, how can we work 20 or 30 and do
Sure.
more?
Sure.
Just because we're getting really good at this kind of niche work.
Yeah.
And look, there's, especially, I'll just talk for my market, in Louisville, Kentucky, uh, there's not enough local private work for a contractor like myself to have that kind of imagination. Like, there's too many other contractors that are going to get piece of the market share that we're just not going to get. So much as I'd like to get all of the market share, it's just not going to happen, right? I mean,
Sure.
there's good competition here. There's fair competition here. There's several capable contractors. So it's like, how can we get outside of our box a little bit, without having to go as fast as we want to go, or have to go to keep the ship afloat? Can we work a little smarter, not harder? Can we go find some things in some of these outlying areas that aren't as saturated, um, and still do great work,
Sure.
and
Find the right
still have
people to
great.
communicate with, especially if it
Yeah,
happens to be at the right time for them.
yeah.
Do you have any advice when dealing? I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong here, that once you start to establish a relationship, even from that striping and pothole level, are you going to be dealing with the same person for the most part at these national companies, or would it be a different project manager for each, or is it differ?
I mean, typically it's going to be the same. Now, some of these project managers that are maybe a little more established might handle more of the capital size work and maybe have some understudy, kind of junior project managers under them that kind of handle the nickel and dime kind of line item stuff, the pothole filling, the striping, the small seal coating, the pavement maintenance kind of things. But for the most part, that it's going to be a project manager and maybe a couple members on their team that you're going to really start creating and establishing these relationships with. And that
So
becomes fun too, because I mean, it's, although you're dealing on a national level and you're dealing with a multitude of different, companies, or that you're providing service for, you're really dealing, and that's another thing. Like, you've got a few contact points, and instead of, if I've got 30 projects in town, um I've got 30 different people that I've got to communicate with and coordinate with and set up logistics for. And that kind of takes kind of that piece out of it too. So you're just dealing with a couple folks and dealing directly with them and getting stuff lined up and handled. So
Sure, dealing with keeping 3 to 5 people happy versus 30,
yeah,
maybe 60
absolutely.
on 30 properties. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So do you have
100%.
any advice as far as dealing with those people? You had mentioned earlier, keep them happy, be responsive. But this is, it kind of all depends on this relationship that you have typically with one, maybe 2 or 3 people within that company. Do you have any advice when times are good, when times are bad? Do you have any advice when communicating with those people and maintaining that relationship?
Yeah, I mean it comes down to and this is why um they stopped having to send someone to oversee our projects is because if you and it's like with anything in life, if you keep your word and you operate with integrity and you do what you say you're going to do and I mean it's the simple stuff, man. It's the simple same things on a local level. Show up when you say you're going to show up. Do what you say you're going to. If it's a 2 inch job, put down frickin' 2 inches. Don't don't try and make 25% by only putting down an inch and a half. I mean, just and when you mess up, make it right. Because look, there's been plenty of times we've screwed a project up or part of a project or something failed or we didn't get exactly what the customer's looking for, and you go back and fix it and you make it right and you try to do it better next time. But the moment you start running from that crap or not answering the phone or not showing up when you say you're going to show up or you quit operating with integrity or you become a slime bag, that stuff goes out the window, man.
Sure, sure. And on those, when those mistakes, I don't know if you can think of one in particular, but when those mistakes happen, or it's construction, it's the industry, things
Just
fall
construction,
behind.
right?
Have you found anything, anything in particular that helps you kind of stay on time and under budget, just as far as is whether it be meeting deadlines or just unique challenges that come with large scale projects? Have you kind of ran into anything like that, or can you think of any examples where that might come into play?
I, I mean, planning, and more planning, man. Like
Replanning.
and replanning. I
Mhm.
mean, and people that over my career have talked about how OCD and anal in particular I am about the trucks need to be here. Like I'm not doing that to be a dictator. The trucks need to be here now. We need to have this much down by this many tons per hour. This needs to be done by like I'm not doing that to be a dictator. I'm doing that because I know, and I've got to communicate that to my team too. Like these are the promises we've made this customer. In order to execute upon those promises, this is exactly what it has to look like. We got to have this much done we got to stay on schedule. You got to have somebody that cares about the schedule. You can't just go out there. I mean, and you're milling at night and you're paving during the day, and you've got this much of an area that you've promised that you're going to mill out at night, be paving at 7 o'clock in the morning, and have it painted and back open for traffic before we start milling the next section the next day. And a lot of times that's a 800,000 ton section of their parking lot. You don't have time for the trucks not to be there or for the paver not to be moving or I mean, and things happen. Like it is construction. Like variables are going to come your way. Kinks in that are going to happen, and uh, that's all well and good. But I mean, if you don't have a schedule and a plan that that you've got to stick to, you communicate that plan to your team, and then execute.
Well, I kind of have some questions about that planning aspect of it because obviously in thinking about if especially if you're just taking a step up from some residential work, the proposal is going to and the planning is going to need to look a little bit different. There's especially if you have a Home Depot size project on not just, someone that's local and maybe will just go more on the feeling they get from you. Can you talk about some of the differences in the proposal and what people might expect that other larger companies are expecting to see from them?
Well, I mean, there's a lot more detail to it, and um, A lot of it's more so in the phasing and the logistics planning of it than there is necessarily in the execution of the work, because uh, going out and overlaying a driveway isn't much different than going out and doing a 5,000 ton overlay at a Home Depot or Walmart, as far as the line items in the proposal might read. You go
Hmm.
out, you mill your edge keys, you clean the pavement, you tack the pavement, you wedge any low lying or damaged areas, and you install an inch and a half of pavement. So it's not it's not much different in the technicalities of the process or procedures that go into place into executing the job. It's more so in the planning, the logistics, the communication with the customer, letting their team know exactly how this is going to go. And that's another one. You get into these larger jobs with phasing. You've got barricading, you've got traffic control, you gotta have tow trucks on site to move any straggling cars that might have got, that are either maybe broken down or left in an area you're getting ready to work in. You're gonna go start milling at 9 or 10 p.m. when these stores close, and shit, there's still 11 cars left in the work area. Now what? You got to have a plan for everything. And going back to it, I found, I said proper preparation prevents piss poor performance.
There
So
it is.
it's the 6P. I mean, it was, and it's funny because I say that a lot, or I have said that a lot, and it was just escaping me in that moment. But
Yeah.
um, dude, planning is so critical, and I sucked at, not at planning, but I sucked at relaying the plan well enough to my team for a bunch of years. And I would be frustrated because I knew the plan. We'd show up and like I knew exactly what had to go down. And I would be the one running around talking with the trucking company, talking with the milling company, talking with the customer, putting the paint on the ground of where we were going and how we were doing it, and everybody else was just kind of following. They're like, "The hell's going on?" I mean,
Sure. And waiting on
Kevin
you.
knows what's going on, but I guess we'll just wait till he's done doing all that shit to figure out what we're going to do next. So it's like, and like we would, even on our drive, just our little driveway days, every single day got to be, we're going to go over every single job, every single detail, exactly how we're going to do it, exactly when the trucks are going to, I mean, to a T. Like, and that's what it takes. That's what kind of communication these customers are expecting, whether it's a private, local, commercial kind of job, or you're dealing with a national company. I mean, they got to see it. They got to believe in you. They got to trust you. They
Sure.
got to they got to know you have a plan. Um, and then when they see you stick to it time and time and time and time again, then you've got trust starting to evolve. So
Sure. So I'm guessing in some of these plans, you might even have to look at hiring some subcontractors yourself, whether it be for striping or for coming or billing or coming and installing
absolutely,
some specialty concrete or something like that.
absolutely.
What are some things you may want to consider? Someone may want to consider, especially if they're newer to the process, but knowing they're needing some help. What's some
Um,
advice you have for looking for some help?
same process as the national does with its subcontract. I mean, find some folks you can rely on and trust, and that they're going to come with a plan and that they've got their ducks in a row. I mean, there's nothing worse than being aligned with a subcontractor that's not in the game with you. I mean, and that's why relationships in construction are so important. I mean, uh, we'd get on we'd get on these jobs, and I knew exactly who I was calling for my milling. I knew exactly who I was calling for my trucking. I knew exactly what asphalt plant I wanted to pull out of, because I knew exactly what kind of project we were going into, and I knew they'd be there. Obviously not rain or shine, because we can't really do much in the rain, but like they're those kind of
Sure.
rain or shine kind of folks. Like they're going to be there no matter what. You
Sure.
say this is the deal, and they say, okay, we got you. They got you.
Sure.
They're going to show up and they're going to know what they're doing. I mean, you can put in the prettiest paving job, the most perfect, draining, you got your elevations right, your joints are all tight. You can put in the best paving job in the world. And if you've got a crappy striping subcontractor show up, man, they can make or break that job.
Yeah.
And you've done, 98% of the revenue and cost that was associated with that job was in the paving aspect of it. And the 2%, that little striping contractor that comes in there and just paints the line, they can have you potentially pulling out some of that pavement and saying, "Hey, we want this redone because this looks awful, and we're not going to scarify it. We're not going to black it out. We're not going to have them repaint it. You're going to mill this out, and we're going to pave it again, and then we'll try and stripe it." So I mean, just over $1,000 worth of paint. You've just peeled up a $50,000 piece of the parking lot.
Sure. And then you're lucky if they're splitting that 50-50 with you and
Yeah,
all the other good
exactly,
stuff.
man. It's
Um,
partnerships, relationships. It makes the world go round, man.
Sure. So let's say you're on one of these larger scale projects, and obviously you have a quality of work standard that you want to maintain. You've got sometimes multiple pavers going on at the same time. Let's just say you have a crew of some decent guys you can trust and everything like that. But how do you ensure that quality of work through all this chaos, all the questions, and everything that's happening? Do you have any kind of mental checks or anything like that to where you don't get to where the project's over and be like, "Damn,
Man,
we're back to planning again."
yeah, yeah. No, I mean that all comes down. That all comes down to me. I mean, it comes down to your training and your repetition and your standards. What are your standards? What is the industry standard? And what does right work or good work look like? And train to that. Because if we don't know how to train to that, we don't know how to execute to that. So it almost becomes, it should become second nature, especially if you've got a good team that you can rely on. Every member of that team, every position, from your shovel guy to your rake guy to your roller operators to your screed operators, your truck driver, I mean, they all know exactly what it needs to look like in their respective job function to make this project look good overall. So it takes an immense amount of training, and it takes immense amount of repetition. It takes an immense amount of setting the standard and practicing the standard over and over and over until it's second nature. Now, it also helps if you've got, we were a small company, a small owner operated company. I was on most of our big capital jobs. A lot of times I was on a piece of equipment or helping out, but a lot of the times I had the capacity to kind of watch what we were doing. So either, somebody, especially when you're laying 100 plus tons an hour, when that paver's moving and you're really getting some good production, somebody's got to be watching. A lot of the times we would put some quality control responsibilities on our roller operator. The last person that's going to finish before it gets rolled. Hey, if we need to stop the paver, if we need to fix a spot, if something didn't get raked or something, ooh, that might not drain, don't let us, I would rather you stop this fast, speedy production we've got going on to fix something now while this material's hot, uh, than us get two or three passes down the line and then realize because of that joint that we didn't match properly, we've got a water hole there that's getting bigger and bigger each time we're making a pass because we just keep trapping it right there. So it's just having an awareness, folks on the team that are bought into the standard, and then it helps big time if you've got a project manager out there just kind of keeping an eye on things, because when the boys get in production mode, the boys are in production mode, and sometimes it's hard to balance that production and quality, at the same time. When you get really good and you get seasoned teams that have been doing it together for long times, you can get speed and quality together all day long, but that takes some time. So,
Sure.
and as if you're starting out, if you haven't done a bunch of these larger projects or projects that maybe you're just not, you're doing service lines that you haven't done a lot of yet, whether that be going from pothole filling to paving driveways, or paving driveways to doing small parking lots. Like, it's okay to go slow for a while. Like, the most important thing is you do it right, because that's going to get that customer to either call you again next time or tell their friend, or get that word of mouth going. Like, sometimes you just, especially when you're starting off or getting going, like, I'm not saying don't worry about the profit margin, but like get that quality piece done right first. And then you can start practicing repetition, instilling some repetition. And then you can start practicing speed.
Sure.
But don't ever go for speed first, because I've tried to do that too. By the way,
Yeah.
we need to get this done by this time so we can make this much money.
Sure. No matter
Well,
what.
we did it, but
And
it's not right.
yeah. And
Now we got to do it again. Now we got
yeah,
to
you
mill it
got to
all
fix
out.
it. Yeah.
And
All,
I've had
all,
to
all
do
the
that. I
negative
mean, you
things.
got luckily nothing ever massive that potentially could have. I mean, you screw up one of these big capital projects and a $500,000 project, and it's wrong or not good enough, and they ask you to mill it out and repave it. You've potentially put yourself out of business and or bankruptcy. Literally, like
Mm,
it's not. I've seen it happen. I mean,
that's
one
bananas.
project, one half a million, six, depending on the size of your company, one six-figure job or large job that decides you either got to redo it or we're not going to pay you, you're in a bad spot.
That's a lot sunk. That's a lot sunk
Yeah,
into a
it's a lot of
project.
suck. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
that quality piece is everything then. That is a lot of knowledge and things, individual topics that we went over today. Was there anything that kind of stuck out to you or anything left in your mind that you kind of wanted to speak on or that we didn't touch on enough when speaking about this, Kev?
Man, I don't think, and I'm just going back to early on in my career, 15 years ago. Um, I can reach out to national paving contractors now and say, hey, send me a 5,000 ton job and it be no sweat off my back. I don't want to get it twisted that I'm recommending that people that are just getting started try and portray that they're capable of going and doing that kind of work without doing the due diligence and working yourself up to that. I mean, that's a process going from you're not going to go from being pretty good at doing 50-ton projects to being capable of executing a couple 1,000-ton project. You're just not.
Sure. Sure.
And I took look, I can say this because I took a lot of lumps along the way. I mean, the first uh I think in that first year I've talked about it a lot at the old business, when they said, hey, we're going to do $1 million. We did 1.2. I think one project we did I don't know. It was probably the first six-figure project the company had ever done, and we ended up losing like 30 or 40,000 bucks on it because we have a clue. We have a clue how to execute it.
Mm,
We got it done, but it hurt and it didn't look great. I mean, so it's just make sure you're doing it kind of growing the right way. Make sure you're right sized. Make sure your projects align with not only your experience, but with your crew's experience, with your manpower, with your production equipment's capabilities and capacities. Like don't go and try and do a 2,000-ton project with a power box, with a gravity fed power box that you're maybe going to get a couple, maybe 200 tons a day down with. Like don't bite off more than you could. Don't let your pride get the best of you because it's easy to do. You see a big job and a big revenue potential. It's easy to jump all over that and say, yeah, we can do that. I'm also not discouraging you from taking those leaps of faith and figuring it because again, that's how we did that too. It's like we
sure.
learned some lessons and we figured out how to execute. So there's a fine line, there's a balance there, and just uh just be careful. Phone a friend. Look, somebody, I mean, everybody's on social medias, on Instagram. They see these larger companies that are executing the kind of work that they want to get into. Reach out to some of those guys and ask for help. How'd you do it? Do you have any advice? What do I need to do? How do I need to plan this? Call me, text me. I mean, I'm just one person. There's probably hundreds of people out there that you could reach out to for help. And here's another one. Get somebody to help you put these estimates together, before you just fire it off and win the job and think you've hit a home run and you don't have hardly enough money on there to even sniff potential profit on it. So
Sure.
And that's where I missed a lot early on, was just not estimating things correctly. And then you're behind the eight ball from the jump, and it's hard to do things right when you start realizing, once you get into a project, that the money's not there.
Sure. Sure. You can't deliver on your promise even from the beginning, even if you run it perfectly.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Absolutely, Kev. Well, that's definitely one of the biggest compliments we've received is that how available you are, and I think it means a lot to the paving community, but also to the people we serve because it does take so many years. You know, I was there for, I guess, probably about 3 years after, 4 years after you'd kind of gone through those early stages. And you know, you've said before, it's not hard, it's rock, sand, and tar. But when you're talking about everything from stepping up to renting, maybe even buying new equipment, just making sure, and even the technical aspect, one pull of a driveway versus 20, 30 that have to drain properly and things that you have to consider. And just maybe taking some of those next steps at a reasonable pace, maybe taking a swing for the fences, but not having it be so far out of your realm to where there's too many hats and unknowns to where you're just not going to
Yeah.
succeed. So I think it's extremely valuable and relevant in most aspects of business, not just the asphalt paving industry.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's, if I, you've asked them any advice or tips. I mean, you asked them, I mean, dude, the biggest thing I learned in my career, and I had several of my mentors tell me this, and until I start felt it over and over and over again, it didn't click. So I'm hoping by sharing this, you don't have to feel it as much as I felt it for it to click. But learn what jobs to say no to, learn which ones
Mm,
aren't a good fit for you, for your team, for your equipment, for your company, and then all 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 of your profit margin is in your planning and your logistics. Like,
mm.
because like you just said, the rest of it is just rock, tar, and sand and getting it on the ground. How do you plan for that? What do your logistics look like? And how do you execute? Like,
Excellent.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll have plenty more conversations around this type of topic because it's just one of the kind of growth stages in the asphalt paving business growth and development. If you want to, obviously, there's going to be some people out there that are just fine doing some residential work, doing some small work, but this is business, and we're feeding our family. And when we talk about the quality of product that we put down, and planning and execution, that goes through our teams and everything, morale, and it does take time to build these things. So keeping yourself in the game is definitely the biggest part of it all. So I appreciate all this, Kev. And if you have anything for Kevin in particular, as he said, reach out to us, see what's up. Uh, we have to go, but for now, if you want to keep this party going, visit us at paveitforwardllc.com, or you can find us on YouTube or Instagram. By now, I have a side project going on. Contractors Digital Hub will now be live on Instagram, so that's exciting. On this social
you
media, yeah, on this platform,
congrats.
yeah, thanks, man. This has been a long time in the works. Probably about 6 months specifically trying to develop this and what we want to talk about and how we want to help. We're going to be talking about AI and emerging technologies, business systems and processes, and modern marketing and partnership processes. Some of that kind of stuff for all kinds of contractors. So obviously Kevin's going to be a large part of that. We're going to pick his brain as much as possible. But I'm really excited about that. So Contractors Digital Hub. On Instagram is probably a great place if you want to just start nerding out a little bit more with me. Otherwise, Pave It Forward LLC. You can get a hold of Kevin or I. We're definitely excited to help. We're feeling like we're getting on a roll with both the asphalt paving and the podcast side of things. So stay tuned. We're going to have some more announcements, definitely some more interactive quizzes, polls, and research that we're going to be conducting for the asphalt paving community. We've got our paving industry report that will be coming up later in the summer. We're going to be polling everyone and seeing what the pulse of kind of the paving industry is in general, how people are feeling about their businesses, what things are working, what programs they're finding useful. So we're definitely excited to keep this ball rolling. So stay tuned, like, subscribe, and Kevin, any last thoughts for the people today, man?
Man, just go out there and get it, man. Believe in
Absolutely.
yourself. Go get it. Phone a friend if you need to.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you
Yeah.
try to take in the amount of knowledge that we're trying to provide all day long, it's not going to work. You got to go out there and go do some things at some point in time, and just phone a friend if you need it, as you said. Absolutely. Well, thank you, everyone. This has been the Pave It Forward podcast. Stick around for another episode that you may have missed, or reach out to us at Pave It Forward LLC on Instagram or YouTube. Thanks.